Just arrived in Birmingham off the train from Crewe, and I'm on my way to one of the key battleground seats in this year's general election. Fascinating seat with very interesting history and two very interesting leading contenders, both of whom, it seems, want to kick Gordon Brown out of Downing Street, even though one of them is the sitting Labour MP.
This is the day Gisela Stuart spends in her constituency. Over there is Lord Adonis, the Transport Minister.
Gisela and Lord Adonis are putting on a show of Labour unity at Moore Street Station, but there are question marks hanging over her alleged backing for the recent attempted coup against the Prime Minister.
Now getting Gisela's car, which appropriately for a new Labour Minister, is a ex-new Labour Minister, Labour MP, is a red Mini. Now Edgbaston had been Tory for 70 years.
And had never ever been Labour before.
But now, look, you've got a job on here.
Of course I've got a job. But the reason why I've got a job on my hands is because I am by averages Middle England.
Birmingham Edgbaston to some extent is England in microcosm.
Yeah. So if I don't win, you won't have a Labour government.
It's the glamour of life as an MP here. You were listed in a lot of places as one of the few backbenchers who supported what Huhne and Hewitt were up to.
Well,
is that right?
Well, I think it just shows you should never believe what you read in the newspapers. I think the big mistake we made as a party is not to have had the leadership election when Gordon Brown took over from Tony Blair. And that's why I think all what's happened in the last 2 years of coups which never are anything are these kind of playouts. And I just hope that what we have now is, and in an odd way I think we do have now, a settled position.
In the worst possible way, arguably.
Well, you know, life never works out the way you want it to be.
To say the least. I had you down as an MP was very uneasy, verging on hostile to Brown's leadership and probably wanted rid of him.
Well, I want a cabinet and a government that works and functions properly.
OK. I think I know what you mean there. So my reading of your position is not entirely wide of the mark.
No, but come on, he is the Prime Minister. He will take us into the next election. There's a party, there's a cabinet, there's a whole lot of us. And what people will look at is us collectively. Compare that with what the Tories have got, who've essentially got Cameron, who's the shiny boy who gets himself airbrushed on the posters. And who else?
You're talking a guardedly optimistic, feisty sort of fight here.
Well,
despite the fact that you're fighting your little Edgbaston part of a national picture, which, as we all know, is pointing in only one direction, which is David Cameron being the Prime Minister. It's tough, that, isn't it?
Well, the airbrush.
It's an uphill struggle, though, to say the least.
Come on, life ain't easy.
But also, this obviously, look at the houses we're driving past here. This is not natural Labour territory.
No, that's probably because Deirdre Alden lives just around the corner from down there.
Who lives
you want me to
around
drive
the corner?
past there? My opponent, Ellsborough Road, just down
really?
there.
So
you're absolutely right. Down there is not natural Labour territory.
Would you pick up any votes down
there? Yes, we do.
Really? This is so leafy and suburban and affluent, though, isn't it?
Oh, but they vote Labour.
Really?
And repeatedly have done so.
It's in slightly less affluent areas of Edgbaston, like Quinton, that this battle will really be decided.
Very stable area. Young professionals are starting to move in because the house prices closer to Harborne are getting too high. But ultimately, it's an area which in the 1970s voted Labour. They started voting for Margaret Thatcher in the 80s. Early 90s, they started voting Labour again.
Right.
And they're the kind of people which I think any party that wants to form the government has to make sure they're on board.
So this is where it all happened?
Absolutely.
I quite admire the woman.
Right.
But I don't think she's got a chance.
What's your understanding of Gordon Brown's position at the moment as the Prime Minister?
Oh, it's very feeble, isn't it?
Right.
Not a man I admire.
She's okay, I would say, like for an MP to have. But if you want to send your MP for a party that's going to lead, I mean, that's what it matters for me.
Right. So in other words, you don't vote locally, it's about the national picture.
At least, I mean, this time I feel like that.
I'm not sure.
Right. Have you voted Labour in the past?
I have voted Labour,
Right.
yeah,
So
and I've voted Conservative.
Have you? So
Yeah.
you're a swing voter?
I'm a swing voter,
right.
yeah.
And you live in this constituency, so you're
Yeah.
exactly the sort of person who's going to decide the result of the next election.
Probably.
On balance, where are you, do you think? Are you more likely to vote Conservative than not?
Possibly.
This seat was held by the Conservatives for 70 years. For the last 3 elections, it's been the Labour Party who've been successful. Now here, as nationally, all the signs are that everything is going to swing back to the Conservatives this time. But what's interesting talking to people in the library is there's a hesitation about that idea of a change of power. People are talking in very, very qualified terms. There's no real sense of a big buy-in. Their votes are only really out on loan, if you like. You're now giving us a lift to meet your Tory challenger. What do you think I should ask her?
If he's going to have these most fiercest of cuts, which he's going to have in the first year, who are the first people they're going to hit? And who are they going to protect? When you fight elections,
Yeah,
I'm here and your opponent is there.
right.
And I intend to win.
Okay, thank you. You're going to win though, aren't you?
Yes, I hope so.
You're not meant to say that. I thought you weren't meant to look complacent.
I'm not complacent. I'm not complacent. Good heavens. There will be a large number of new MPs, and I think that in itself will be a breath of fresh air.
And what difference would you like that new generation of MPs to make? In other words, on account of those people being in Parliament, what might be different this time?
In what respect?
Well, if you are different because there is that huge arrival of people who've never been MPs before, how might that change the way that Parliament behaves?
I think very much there are a lot of candidates that I know who represent their own areas. Like me, I live here. Edgbaston is unique in that it's been represented by a woman MP since 1953, and no other seat has had a woman MP for so long. And the first one of those was Edith Pitt, and she was elected in this very building.
So I wonder what you yourself think of the idea that it's important to be a female MP that represents something worthwhile and significant in itself.
I just think it's a nice tradition in Edgbaston that we've had a woman MP since 1953. I think most people know that, and it's quite nice to carry on the tradition. It doesn't have to be, but as it happens, now we've got 2 women candidates this time, it will be again.
You're not a feminist, are you?
Not particularly. I think you want the best person for the job, and I know that there are lots of able women out there who will be the best person for the job.
Does she really think that if hard times are ahead, cutting inheritance tax, which on average will benefit 5 people per constituency across the country, really shows that this is a Tory Prime Minister in waiting who's changed his spots?
I think it's a policy which people resonated with people. I think people liked it. They quote rather silly numbers about it, but in fact the numbers they quote are the people that are dead. It isn't those people who are affected. Those people are dead. It's the people that they leave their money to or their houses to. And in lots of cases, that's probably a dozen other people, many of whom may not be very well off.
So the idea that it applies to a tiny, tiny minority of the electorate you don't quite buy.
That's the people that die.
Right.
That's the number of estates. But each one of those people will probably be leaving that money to their children and to their grandchildren, and then it spans out, doesn't it? It cascades down. Wealth cascades down through the generations.
Now, leaving the tropical warmth of the botanical gardens, going back into Birmingham's frozen wastes, en route to New Street Station and my train home. Gisela Stewart isn't the kind of Labour MP that I've got a huge amount in common with. Fair play to her. She's her own person, she's a bit of a maverick, she's a square peg in Parliament's round hole. Whether Deirdre Oldham will prove to be the same kind of MP remains to be seen. Clearly the Conservatives are on course to win here. The crucial question is how big they win. Come election night, because Edgbaston is England in microcosm, we need to watch this seat very, very closely.